North Yemen, ancient land of Arabia Felix. North Yemen lies at the southwest corner of the Arabian Peninsula. It's a country dominated by mountains, flanked on one side by the Red Sea and on the other by the desert sands of the Empty Quarter. It comprises the coastal plain of the Tehama, rugged foothills and a high mountain plateau. Our journey starts on the palm-fringed beaches of the Red Sea. It's autumn. It's hot and humid. There are salt-encrusted sand flats, swaying date palms, mangroves, and many, many birds. Here, along the biologically rich Red Sea shore, flocks of waders, migrants from northern Russia, stop to feed and fatten up on their journey south to Africa, where they will spend the winter. These are curlew sandpipers, and here on the sandy fringes a reef heron stalks its prey. In the deeper water is a rather special bird, the black and white crab plover with its powerful bill. Nesting in dense colonies of which only 7 are known in the world, the crab plover was a common bird on the coast. Adults occurred with dependent young, perhaps indicating a yet-to-be-discovered colony here in North Yemen. While in the mangrove clumps, pink-backed pelicans pant in the heat of the midday sun. Mangroves are a tropical tree adapted to growing in the inhospitable mud of the coastal waters. Despite their size, these are inaptly named dwarf mangroves. Among them, fine nets were strung between poles in order to catch and ring birds. One of the first to be caught was a little bittern, a rarity in these parts. A small member of the heron family, its sharp and pointed bill used for stabbing fish can inflict a nasty wound on the unsuspecting ringer. The main purpose of ringing is to find out where birds migrate, each bird being fitted with a uniquely numbered ring, which, if found, will tell us a great deal about the bird's migration pattern. In addition, each bird is measured and weighed before being released. This reed warbler has just been examined and poses for the cameraman before continuing its journey south. But it's time to leave the coast and head off into the Tehama. This is the low-lying strip of semi-desert separating the Highlands from the sea, and one of the expedition's main tasks was to survey its little-known bird life. This was done by carrying out over 250 census walks at 44 different locations. At each spot, observers, spaced at 400 metres apart or more, headed off to count every bird seen or heard along a 2-kilometre length. In this way we covered over 500 kilometres of the Tehama, sampling 10 different vegetation zones. Every bird was recorded on these standard forms, be it a rare vagrant such as this juvenile wattled starling, a nomadic species which breeds in Africa, or the Arabian golden sparrow, a resident bird, which although numerous here is only found in this part of the world. The types of plants and vegetation structure were also recorded on standard forms, and so a picture gradually built up, not only of the birds, but also of the environments in which they live. Inland, the Tehama is surprisingly fertile and increasingly cultivated. A careful scan over the green tops of millet, maize or sorghum can produce its surprises. A great Arabian bustard. A very rare bird, and now probably extinct in Arabia, except for the coastal plains of North Yemen. Standing when alert, it is almost 4 foot tall, and here beginning its courtship display, which has never before been fully described and certainly never filmed, the neck balloons out, almost engulfing the head in a ball of feathers. In full display now, yet it takes no notice of a passing farmer. One of the encouraging things about many of the birds that we saw in North Yemen was their comparative tameness. Yemenis left them in peace. We never saw a gun raised against them, or even a stone thrown by a child. The expedition heads off from the hot and humid plains of the Tehama into the foothills of the Highlands. On the drier slopes, the desert rose is in full bloom. But probably one of the most spectacular places in this flank of hills is Jebel Burra, a mountain rising some 2,000 metres out of the Tehama plains. It is one of the last remaining areas of primeval pre-cultural forest in Arabia, resounding to the cries of the grey hornbill. Once North Yemen was clothed in woodland, but now such forests are only found in a few isolated areas, often dominated by strategically placed villages on the crests of hills. Occasionally, there was time to stop off and mix with the friendly local people, smoke a hubble-bubble pipe, or take a dip in a mountain pool. Watched, perhaps enviously, by a migrant buzzard stopping off on its way to Africa. We're off too, on one of the many treacherous roads that dissect the hills into the interior highlands. Punctures were often a problem, and perhaps we would have done better to stick with a traditional donkey or mule. Soon we're in the ramparts of the Great Highlands, with their cultivated terraces tumbling down thousands of metres, allowing agriculture on even the most rugged of slopes. Much of Yemen is high plateau. Its highest peak is over 3,600 metres, the roof of Arabia. Here on the cliffs of Korkobam, we had our first experience of the exciting birds of the highlands. The dainty little rock thrush, or the ubiquitous yellow-vented bulbul feeding on rose hips. Whilst the Palestine sunbird preferred the nectar from flower heads. The feeding behaviour of all birds we saw was carefully recorded. In addition to the wealth of information we gathered by direct observation, the expedition also netted some of the birds in the highland regions. Amongst the most exciting of them was perhaps the Arabian excentor, only found in North Yemen, on the scrubby slopes at around 3,000 metres. The plateau of North Yemen stretches like the back of a whale up through the centre of the country. At times inhospitable, accentuated by the heat of the noonday sun, though long gone is the humidity of the Tehama. The rugged landscape is punctured by towns. Sadar in the north, with its ancient mud brick houses, fine mosques, and a way of life that has probably changed little in centuries. Leaving the old, we venture to the new. Some of man's recent activities have created new environments for birds. For example, the lagoons at Taiz and Hodeidah have provided a freshwater habitat, which is otherwise a rarity in Arabia. These are ideal feeding grounds for migrant terns or waders, such as this greenshank. Or an occasional flamingo, or flock of spoonbills. Here also is a black kite, one of the commonest birds of prey in North Yemen. At the edge of the rich waters, a group of avocets rest and preen, whilst nearby a migrant demoiselle crane from the steppes of Russia pauses on its long journey south. Black-winged stilts with their long, delicate pink legs pick at the surface for insects. Eventually we head off again, this time to the euphorbia zone. We're still in the Highlands, but below the frost line, and here these candelabra-like succulents grow in profusion, often covering hillsides to the horizon. Our census work continues, concentrating now on the 13 species endemic to southwest Arabia, attempting, through many hours of observations, to establish just how they use their environment. Species such as this rather drab Arabian serin. Amongst the acacias and euphorbias, perhaps the most spectacular of the endemics is the golden-winged grosbeak. About the size of a sparrow, it has startling white cheek patches, and when it flies displays golden flashes in the wings and tail. Its stout bill enables it to deal effectively with the euphorbia fruits and flowers on which it appears to be dependent. Freshwater marshes are at a premium in Arabia. They are always rich in bird life, and this one proved to be no exception. These large black birds with vulturine heads and long bills are one of the rarest species in the world, and to find them in North Yemen was a complete surprise. The bald ibis is only known from a rapidly dwindling colony in Turkey and a few in North Africa, and the total number of individuals in the world is probably no more than 400. Yet this party of 12 adults had been present throughout the summer, and in August they were joined by 2 juveniles. Do they breed in North Yemen, or are they migrants from the Turkish colony on the edge of the Euphrates? Only future observations will tell, but whether they breed in the country or whether they are migrants, North Yemen is clearly important for them, and such a marsh must be saved, both for the bald ibis and the many other bird species dependent on such wetlands for their survival. Autumn is over, and our expedition has all too quickly come to an end. What of the future for the wildlife of this unique country? Arabia Felix, happy Arabia. Will North Yemen's natural heritage survive in the hands of the next generation? And will the Arabian bustard continue to walk freely among the green sorghum fields of the Tehama?